The S-Class, the flagship in the Mercedes range. If you want comfort, presence, and refinement, that is the car you go to. But maybe not for much longer, because Mercedes, like everyone else, is having to go electric, and therefore they've had to develop a luxury product powered not by ICE, but by something called batteries.
This is the Mercedes EQS, the electric alternative to the S-Class. It promises high levels of comfort, refinement, and advanced technology. It should cost somewhere north of £80,000, has a near 500-mile driving range, and recharges in minutes, representing a huge leap towards the future.
It doesn't look very futuristic though, does it? It's a bit of a weird shape, the EQS. It's got this kind of bubble look to it. I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. If you look at the S-Class, it's sleek, it's got presence. If three of these rock up, you think, I don't know, some Italian gangsters or mafia, or the head of a small republic has just rocked up. Whereas if three of these turn up, you think, well, you wouldn't even look twice, would you? But there is a reason for this design. Apparently the EQS is the most aerodynamically efficient car that's ever been production built. It has a drag coefficient of 0.20, so it's even more slippery than the S-Class.
It's about 100mm shorter and 200mm narrower than the S-Class, so takes up less space on the road, but the wheelbase is nearly identical. It's available in an unusual two-tone paint finish or a single color, and comes with a choice of 20, 21 or 22-inch low drag wheels.
It does have a very interesting front. This front end is completely smooth with dozens of Mercedes stars all across it. Plus it's got this full width light bar at the front as it does at the back. And these headlights are completely digital. Apparently they use 1.3 million micro mirrors, so they combine to have a total resolution of 2.6 million pixels. Now I know pixels sounds like marketing nonsense, but these can actually project images onto the road, icons to warn you of trouble ahead, for example roadworks or pedestrians. You can't use it in the UK because it's not allowed, but in Germany that system is very effective. Unfortunately, there is no front trunk on the EQS. This doesn't open at all for reasons I'll explain later. So how do you perform any maintenance on the EQS? Well, the only thing you can do is add screen washer, and that is done at the side. You basically press this here, that folds out, and you pour in your screen wash. Very futuristic. As for the doors, well, it's got the same pop-out door handles as the S-Class, but it goes a step further. It will actually open automatically for you to let you in. Then, when you get inside, to close it, you press the brake pedal, and the door will close automatically. What a flex! Once I'm in, I can, if I want to, open all of these doors automatically using the screen. Look at that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and by the way, it goes another step further. If I want to, I can even open the boot. So let's do that as well, since we're here.
Before I show you the interior of the EQS, let me show you what it has to compete with. The cabin of the S-Class is majestic, with a 12.8-inch OLED infotainment display, fingerprint and face sensing technology for logging in, some of the best ambient lights in the game, and even a 3D driver display that makes it look as if the graphics are floating in front of your face. But even this isn't as advanced as the interior of the EQS.
Look at this. You hear that? Ladies and gentlemen, this is an absolute spaceship. The star of the show in the EQS is this enormous display, which Mercedes calls the Hyperscreen. It's a 55-inch display that stretches from A-pillar to A-pillar, although it's not really a 55-inch screen. It's actually three separate displays. The first one is your driver information screen, which is directly in front of you and can be controlled using the capacitive buttons on your steering wheel. The second is a passenger display, which lets your passenger control various aspects of the car, as well as media playback. So they can watch daytime TV, films from a USB, for example, but that only works if they're sat in the seat. The third display is this brilliant central screen. This is OLED, by the way, and it's super crisp, super sharp, and gives you access to all of the car's main functions. What you'll notice at first is that all of your heating, ventilation and climate controls are down the bottom. They're permanently there, which means that you always know where to go when you're adjusting the temperature. If you adjust the temperature up, then you get ambient lighting around the sides and up here on the dashboard turning red. If you adjust it down, they turn blue, just like you get on the S-Class. It's not the simplest system in the world. It's not as good as having physical buttons, but it's still pretty cool. The rest of it works in a similar way to the S-Class, but with a couple of key differences. There's a one-layer philosophy, which means that the UI presents information that it thinks you should be seeing. So I've been using these comfort doors quite a lot today, and it puts up an icon because it thinks that I might need to access that because that's something that I do quite regularly. So if I press that, then I get an instant shortcut to opening and closing all the doors. Apart from that, there's also an EQ menu, which gives you access to all your local charging stations, parking spaces, restaurants, and all your charging options. For example, you can tell the car to only charge up at night when your particular energy costs are lower, or to preheat and pre-cool the car before you get inside. As for the rest of the cabin, I think it's pretty cool actually. You've got this floating center console design with a sliding door here for a couple of cup holders, 2 USB ports, and a wireless charging mat. Again, a central binnacle down here with 2 more USB ports and another charging mat. Plus down here, another little storage area with 2 more USB ports to go with the 2 USB ports that are in the back. So all in all, very practical, very cool looking, and filled with tech. I will show you the back in just a second, but first I want to tell you what this car drives like. But before I do that, I need to refresh my memory with the S-Class. Okay, the S-Class, the absolute daddy of the luxury segment. It's a wonderful thing. It really is. It's quiet, it's refined, it's smooth, and it feels very special. It's the S500 to be specific, and I love the suspension in this thing. It scans the road ahead for any imperfections and slackens off that air suspension to make the ride as supple as possible. These seats are outrageously good as well, super comfortable, and you've got these huge pillows behind you. You almost want to fall asleep in this car. I won't, but that's the kind of vibe in the S-Class. It's just nice. Also, the seats have these active bolsters on either side, so when you go around a left-hand bend, the bolsters on the right will actually push you back into place, or if you go around a right-hand bend, the bolsters on the left push you across to counteract that movement in your body. It's almost like you've got a butler behind you, cuddling you and just pushing you back into the place where you need to be. The steering is super light. Got to give a shout out to these massaging seats as well. They use speakers in the seats to vibrate and rumble your bottom. It sounds a bit rude, but it actually feels really nice. This, you got to say, is right up there when it comes to luxury. However, and I said this when I reviewed the new S-Class back in December 2020, the one thing holding it back is the internal combustion engine. It kind of compromises the whole thing. You feel vibration through the steering wheel, through the pedals, through the floor, through your body, and it's not nice. I mean, it's okay, it's acceptable if that's all you've ever known, but now we know that electric cars are a lot smoother. You can't help but think this thing will be made better with an electric motor. In fact, that's what I said. I said even a budget electric car is slightly more refined than a high-end, expensive Mercedes S-Class, and that what the S-Class needed was batteries and electric motors. Was I right? Today's the day we find out. Yep, I was right. No beating around the bush. The difference is night and day. The EQS has all of the comfort and the luxury that you might expect from the S-Class, but it takes it a step further by massively improving the level of refinement. It's so smooth. It's unbelievably smooth in here. You know, it doesn't rely on an internal combustion engine. It doesn't rely on pistons slamming into cylinders, causing explosions in order to move. And that means there are no vibrations. There's no unwanted noise. It's a cocoon of luxury. Honestly, if I'd never driven an EQS, I would have thought the S-Class was pretty much as good as it gets. But by hopping into an EQS, you immediately feel the difference. It's night and day. The S-Class almost feels like steampunk technology. It almost feels a bit like a tank, whereas this just feels like a spaceship. and it's so quiet in here, man. It's unbelievable.